Hello everyone and welcome back. So this is part 2 of my recap of the Jurong Spring National Day Online Blitz Championships 2021. Now previously uh, this is the launch of the Jurong Spring Chess Club organized by Kevin Go, the SC Chess United and the Chess Against COVID, and the update since last week is that they have already launched their first over the board session, and they are already opening the sign-ups to all the participants out there. So they did provide us with the sign-up link. Let's see if I have it. Yeah, I can just post it in the chat. Give me a moment. Alright, fantastic. Yeah, so I think after this I will put this sign-up link in the description as well. Right. In the meantime, just sit back and enjoy my recap of the games. Alright, so in the part 1 of the recap, I already covered games 1 to 4, and today I actually wanted to cover games 5 to 8. I looked through them a little bit, and I think I'll only be covering games 5 to 7 in greater detail. Game number 8, my game with clients 0919, there really isn't much to talk about. I mean, this is the position, and all that I can say is that I went for this really stupid idea of like try to go for this pawn, and yeah, I played bishop to g5. Yeah, I mean obviously the very simple idea. Winning this pawn is a backward pawn. If you move, you're gonna lose it. And on paper it looks very good, except that hey, wait a minute, because this bishop is free, and after knight takes, I basically just gave a free pawn. And that's basically how the game ends. I resisted for a few more moves. Actually I resisted until like 20 more moves, but yeah, basically this game is resignable already. So that's why I'm not gonna go through it in great detail. On the other hand, the other 3 games, games 5 to 7, are a little bit more interesting, so that those I will go through in greater detail. Now, I'm going to move on to game number 5. So let me just transition there. And here we go. So this is, I'm taking white against at 3E. I think that I think he's from Temasek Polytechnic because I have seen that name before. Right, so let's go, let's start. Alright, so d4 knight f6, and I open with my favorite Catalan opening. This is the open Catalan where white gives up this, white gains this extra, sorry, as in white gives up the pawn, but in return you have e4, you have opportunity to create a very nice attack in the center. Yeah. But over here I go for the queen a4 check variation, seeking to get the pawn back immediately. And after this, yeah, a4, quite a common move in the Catalan opening to prevent these b5 ideas and also the bishop b5. And here I think I did manage to get a good position, even though my Catalan bishop has been traded off. Because here, first of all, I have what every Catalan player dreams of, the center. I'm able to push e4 over here. And even though I seem to get double pawns, this definitely is a very nice position for white, and I would love to play this. Because even though this file is exposed, all I need to do is to tuck my king onto g1, go on rook g1, hit down the upper file, maybe play this, come here, and then knight to f3, and then couple with this pawn center. I think white has a very pleasant position to play it, provided that he calculates the attack well. Did I? We'll see. I think you can already tell there's a bit of spoilers judging by the rating change at the top of the screen. But let's continue. I like to b6. Not a big fan of this move here, bringing the knight away from the action which is likely to be on the king side. But I guess this is probably to actually I really don't know what this achieves. Yeah, probably clear this square maybe, but not sure how much value that adds. Anyway, queen to e2, so this does help me, right? Bishop takes e5, pawn takes e5, and now you look at this. Even though I have 2 sets of double pawns over here, but they are doing a very nice job of, number 1, controlling all the squares in the center. So black doesn't really have that much counterplay actually, even though they occupy this open e file. And also I always have this resource of f5 and potentially a future queen here, h4, h5. Definitely looks very promising for white. the problem here is that I do need to consolidate my position a bit because some of my pieces are still a bit loose. For example, this queen is doing a good job of holding on to some critical squares. For example, I cannot play h4, h5 immediately because obviously it drops. And if my queen goes here, then this knight is loose. So, I mean, I can sacrifice this knight entirely at one point, but I don't think now is the best time to do that. Right. Anyway, queen to e7. Queen d4 here for black looks interesting. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. But I do think that after knight to f3, there might be... It's still very tricky for both sides to play. And I still would take black over here. Yeah. Who are you, by the way? Oh, hello, Andrew. Good to see you. Alright. So, give me a moment. Okay. Anyway, queen to e7. King to h1, so going for my original plan. Occupying the e file. For queen b2 and a4. Yeah, for sure. Queen d4. But I think I will gladly give 10 of pawns, honestly. Like after knight to f3, rook to... I'll just focus on my attention on the king side. And let him gobble up my queen side pawns. Yeah. Rook f8. So the pressure here is still very real. So I still have to watch out. What about rook a3, rook g3? Oh yes, yeah, so Nima just commented on my Instagram live. Rook a3, rook g3. Yes, definitely very playable. And I actually did not even consider that until now. Yeah, so maybe I should have looked at that at least. Anyway, I played rook g1 over here. The idea, of course, go here. Or rook a3, rook g3, like Nima suggested in the Instagram live. White plays g6. So definitely the idea of immediate checkmate is no longer there. But now this gives me it's very tempting because this g6 gives me a hook. And I have all the liberty in the world to just sacrifice this knight altogether, go h4, h5, or even f5. Definitely the thought process that I was looking at over here is that obviously h4 doesn't work immediately because this is obviously bad. And after thinking for a short while, I decided to go straight for the attack with f5. Which looks very tempting. It looks very strong. Now rook h3, rook h3. Yeah, Nima, you are correct. Actually, I really should have considered rook a3, rook h3, and the rook live along this rank. But I went for f5, which at first glance looks very, very strong, but it's not. It's not because it allows black a lot of counterplay. Watch what happens. It takes f5, it takes f5, rook d5. And now this is the problem because now you compare this to this. Previously, there is you look at all these squares, all these are just being occupied. There's no way the rook can come in onto them. The squares are occupied as well. I mean, really, the only possible place is rook d4 maybe. And then after this, I will just go rook a3, rook h3, and then start some form of attack. But after f5 and the pawn exchange, now black has this. Black has this, and the idea is that after the series of exchanges here, you notice what changes. Now this rook has access to the 4th rank. And after something like queen to g4, king to g7, which is what is played in the game, now the rook has access to this file as well, which is exactly where I am aiming at my attack at. So really this f5 idea that I thought of earlier is most certainly not a very good way of continuing the attack simply because it allows black too much freedom to access the king side. Like, in fact, if I go back to this position over here, what I really should have considered was, I think the engine suggested something like knight to f3 over here. And after this, you notice that white really doesn't have a good way to access the king side. Probably he needs to go do something like this. And now my ideas, white ideas are quite clear. You do have things like knight to g4, h4, because the knight covers now. And after that, h5, rook to a3, rook to h3, definitely, like Nima suggested. And there's definitely a lot of hooks here that white can use to get into the attack. So let's say for example, h5, hoping to stop h4, h5, and then possibly I could play something like let me think. I could no maybe not h4, but rook to g4, maybe rook to g5 maybe, with the idea that I'm gonna play here, I'm gonna play here, and I'm gonna sacrifice over here. And again, it's quite hard for black to deal with all these threats. And I think the attack here is definitely more promising for white as compared to what I play in the main line. Right. Yeah, so instead in the main line I went for f5, and after all this whole series of exchanges, this position was reached. And even though I tried my best to bring in every single one of my pieces into the attack, you see I have every single one of my pieces here, I go to attack, but look at black. Black is able to get all the pieces into the defense properly, right? Very soon he's going to play knight to d5, which he does play, and after this, I think there's a rule that bottom chess once mentioned: when you are attacking, you want to outnumber the defenders by at least 2 extra pieces. So over here, definitely my attack is not going to go through because I'm definitely not outnumbering the defender. The defender is able to bring in every single piece into the defense, and basically is quite well positioned to hold this. Yeah, I think any tactics for white wouldn't work very well over here. Anyway, even though it's not going good, I still have to try. I mean, it's a base game, I can do anything. He's down to his last 22 seconds, by the way. So I just go for all these funny tricks. Knight to g5, and after rook h4, I just went for this absolutely wonky and absolutely incorrect sacrifice. Yeah, knight takes f7 because I realized that there's nothing left for me to play for. Anything that I could play for over here, I really don't know. Maybe I could just go back knight to f3 and hope for a repeat, or maybe even here, I hope to sack here. But I think black will just play rook to h6 and he will be perfectly fine because after knight to e4, there really isn't any chance of a sacrifice over here because black has sufficient defenders. Oh my goodness. By the way, guys, if you ever come to NUS LT3, LT4 area and you're planning to camp here for a long while, please bring mosquito repellent. I'm actually suffering quite a bit right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm here because there's no one else here, so I can speak at my normal volume. Yeah, anyway, this wasn't played. Now I went for the absolutely wonky knight takes f7, which doesn't work because after this, and I thought I still had something here, because like rook to f3 is still a bit difficult for white to play, but I overlooked this tactic. Rook takes h2, rook g1, rook h1, king g2. You think that rook h2 I run away, right? No, knight to f4, check. And I just lose a rook here. And actually over here I played on for a while more, but let's just assume that I resign here because white is completely lost. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely do need to work a bit in the art of attack, how to calculate my attacks, looking at all these rook leaves, and definitely considering what defensive resources my opponent has. Right. So that's game number 5. Game number 6, I am taking the black pieces and I'm facing off against the opponent who is slightly lower rated than me, but still definitely a chance of losing to him if I screw up. And actually I did screw up in this game. But yeah, by the way, there's arrows here now because my opponent ran the computer analysis. I will try my best to ignore it. Yeah. Basically over here what happened from the start is that I lost a pawn somehow. Yeah, if you count the material on the board, I'm a pawn down, and am I 2 pawns down? No, I'm a pawn down. Yeah, but somehow I managed to get in this really weird position where the center is just absolutely and queen side they are just absolutely closed. This bishop is just doing nothing, and I have counterplay along this f file and the open king side. My pieces are actually quite well positioned to exploit that. Yeah, And in fact, over here, the computer already suggests that I could go for this sacrifice, rook takes c3. Rook takes f3 over here. I did see this during the game, right? But I didn't play it because for reasons that I'll explain later. But the idea here is that after rook takes f3, this is a very classic idea, you know. You will see this a lot in these Sicilian games where black just sacrifices a rook on c3 and when white is castle queenside. But anyway, rook takes f3, the idea is that if I take here, then there's absolutely devastating knight to f4, occupying this square, which has been weakened by the double pawns. And the threat here is really queen to h4, and there's no good way to prevent checkmate. Let's say, for example, rook to h1, goodbye. Probably I think bishop f1 is forced, but even then it's really very hard for white to play over here. I think bishop d2, and then you just cut out on this pawn. But definitely rook takes f3 was very much playable over here. Right? I didn't go for it because first of all, I already had less than 20 seconds. I had 20 seconds left on my clock, so I was not confident that this attack is going to succeed. So I decided, okay, I should just play a bit safer here, gain some time on the clock. And I went for the quiet rook f6. Yeah, the computer hates it because it says, why are you not sacrificing the rook? Which, okay, fine, I agree with it. But I'm really not sure if I can calculate that in like under 10 seconds. Yeah, but here it's very interesting because I am trying my best to hammer my way down this open file. White somehow manages to plug up the gaps, but I still have a lot of chances because I always have this resource of king to h2, followed by g3, and then I just kick away this knight. There's no need to fear from any checks because this pawn just completely closes up the diagonal. Yeah. Anyway, bishop e2 played, knight to f4, and yeah, bishop to g4. I could go for the king h2 g3 idea right now, but I decided that this funky little maneuver was a little bit more interesting. Just advancing my pawns forward, trying to blow open this king side, just bringing in more attackers. And actually, if you notice the comparison between now and the previous game, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers. The opponent has maybe 1, 2 defenders, possibly a third one, but and I have this as well. So I think my chances here for a successful attack is definitely higher as compared to this game over here. Right. So anyway, queen to d1 played, trying to bring in more defenders. I bring in more attackers. The computer is showing screaming blunders all over the place. I'm not going to look into those variations. Yeah, I really don't have the time to go and calculate all of them. But a few moves later, yeah, of course the idea is that if I don't take this queen from the drop, then my attack just dies. But I go for this idea. And over here, finally, white slips up. Because this definitely is a very strong move. But yeah, if the bishop runs, which it does, a blunder. And now I have made into with queen takes f2. And yeah, I think you can work out the rest for yourself, and this is checkmate now. Yeah, I do regret to say that this was not a very perfect conversion. It involved a lot of blunders on both sides, but at least it's showing me that, okay, fine, I am getting somewhere with my attacks as compared to what happened in the previous game. Right. Okay, so that's game 6. Game 6, right? Yes, that's game 6. Okay, so now I'll go on to the final game, game number 7, and that's really the highlight of today because this is played against, I'm taking the white pieces here, and I'm playing against Latak Pijun. That's Sakshi Pradyum from the NUS chess team as well, so fellow teammates, Civil War, yay. Sakshi took over me as the NUS chess captain in 2018, and he is now the current secretary of the NUS Intellectual Games Club. He was my teammate? Yeah, he was my teammate in the World University Championships 2021. He's definitely a better player as compared to me, as you can see by the rating difference between the two of us. very dynamic player as well. So I do have to be careful when I choose my openings against him. But definitely I do have a chance of beating him because I sort of know his playing style and I know what's the best way for me to try and beat him. Anyway, the game goes d4, knight f6, and Sakshi plays his favorite King's Indian defense. Now, if I go, I know that Sakshi is a King's Indian player, and if I go for knight to f3, e4, which is the main line, he can be a very dangerous player in that line with his queenside attacks, f5 and so on. And he's very familiar with that, so I don't go for those. Instead, I go for the Franchetto variation, g3, which is generally more positional as compared to the King's Indian main lines. So after this, actually knight f3 was a slight inaccuracy. I should have played knight to c3 because when black transposes into the Grunfeld defense, the knight is actually better placed on e2 to allow f4 to take place. But anyway, knight f3, not the end of the world, and after c takes d5, knight takes d5, e4. Yes, I have the center, and after castles, now I face a choice. Do I push or do I protect? Bishop e3. Now, I do regret to say that I made the inaccurate choice over here of playing bishop to e3. Inaccurate because it allows knight to c4. And actually, I'm a bit embarrassed to say that I actually faced a position that was almost the same as this in the World University Championships 2021. Let me just find that position. I think this was it. So this was the position that I faced in a previous competition. I played knight to e2, and here after castles, knight to c6, I went for bishop e3 as well. And then knight to c4, and I'm in a bit of trouble because the knight forks the b2 and the e3, bishop e3. And after this, I realized that after looking at this position, it does seem that e5 was the best move because of the knight e5. While it seems that this knight is pretty solid and this bishop has a lot of pressure, I do have this very powerful resource. Is it here? Yeah, f4. Yeah, f4. It can get very, very, very tactical. Yeah, I have the center, but black has the very long diagonal. Yeah. So anyway, back to the game. So yeah, I probably. Oh my goodness, no, sorry. Let me just get back here. Yeah, I should have went for e4. After this, probably something like this would be very ambitious and very fun to play, and for both sides. Anyway, bishop to e3 was played. Inaccuracy because now knight c4 comes in, a fork. And now I just go with knight to c3 with the idea that after knight takes e3, f takes e3. I have played this position before, and I know that white will still have some chances on the f file and in the center, even though they are double pawns, right? Sakshi thought for quite some time over here, and he surprised me by playing knight takes b2. Actually, after the game, he told me that he did calculate knight takes b2 and realized that the extra pawn wasn't worth it. I will show you later why. And he was preparing to play knight takes e3, but I think he mouse slipped and went for knight takes b2 instead. So here is why that pawn isn't worth it. Queen to b3. Now where does the knight go? Only square, right? Rook a d1. And guess what? The knight is trapped. I mean, you can play this, and then after that I just I just chase you away. But then again, Sakshi is a strong player. He knows that even though he's losing the knight, he's not going to go down without a fight. He still has a lot of compensation. And where does he seek that compensation? By blowing up the whole center. Knight takes d4. And this sets a very, very interesting trap. Because if I screw up here, I play something like bishop takes d4, right? And bishop takes d4. And if I'm not careful, and I blunder with this, then all of a sudden my rook hangs. You take your check. Good luck, and I can resign here. Yeah. But I think he took a very long time to think of this reply, and that gave me enough time to calculate all the possible variations because I really did see the potential set over here. Yeah. So after, I think it took almost 1 minute to think of this variation. Yeah. So I knew that I shouldn't take the bishop. I have to take the knight. And after bishop takes d4, I can just safely capture the knight. And now it's now it's a piece for 2 pawns. I'm slightly better, but still very playable for both sides. Yeah. And plus, do note that the time is about equal for both sides, so there isn't really much time advantage to speak of yet. Yeah. e5 by black. A good move because now this fixes this pawn. Now this bishop does look a bit stupid. And here I really would love to play f4, but I have to be very careful because if I play that and let's say if I play now, I just self-destruct again. This rook falls. Yeah, so that's why I played rook fd1 to try and reinforce. And I think the next few moves really does pass in a blur because I think what I was trying to do for the next few moves was that I was trying to get in this f4 move and I was trying to make sure that I don't self-destruct in the process. So it was really a lot of probing in this position, like trying to maneuver my pieces. Hi, who is this? Hello? I have never, I don't know your Twitch username, but you're definitely very welcome to join me. Yeah, but anyway, the next few moves you're really just maneuvering and trying to probe for weaknesses in his position. Ideally, I would want him to take on e3, but he's definitely not going to do that. He's not stupid, right? And he doesn't. So now I feel that, okay, after this position, I'm in a good point to play f4 now because my king is definitely much safer. He doesn't take it. He goes for f6, and now I really am at a slight loss. Like, okay, so what do I do here? How do I probe for the weaknesses in black's position? I mean, if you look at the imbalances here, this center is definitely on the verge of exploding. I can't take. I don't think I can take because if I do, then then this pass pawn is actually really very potent. And let's say something like this, I think I think black is better over here. Yeah. So I couldn't. I definitely considered taking on d4 at some points, but I couldn't. And that's why I decided to try and probe for weaknesses on the other side, on the queen side. And I think after a few more moves, over here, I think I slipped up somewhere. Because now black has this really strong move, c4. With the idea that this rook is, it's very hard to put this rook somewhere. If I retreat, obviously that hangs. If I go back, I think rook a3 is really the only move here that doesn't lose the bishop because that bishop is hanging. Yeah, but it's definitely very awkward for me. Yeah, and instead I went for a very crazy line here, which loses actually. I think it loses. I went for rook c1. The idea here is obvious. And I think it's actually, I'm not sure whether he saw that he was winning because he already has 5 seconds left on his clock when he plays this, or he's probably just trying to generate some chaos in this position. Or he just gives up the queen altogether. Yeah. He just gives it up. He is relying on this, and not just that pawn, but also he's relying on this weak back rank to try and generate enough counterplay. Now if I take the pawn, wait a minute. What was running through my mind during the game? I was thinking that there are some checkmate threats over here. But now that I see it, actually this bishop covers. But this bishop covers, but then he might be able to take it. And then suddenly everything just goes crazy. Okay, you know what? This is just, both of us have like down to our last 10 seconds. I think we really were not thinking straight at this point. But after this, now this really is a threat. And I have no choice but to do something about it. So I think h4 is forced here. Can't think of anything better. And d3. I have to pick one pawn, so I chose this pawn, which actually was a mistake, I think, because after king to h2, b2, yeah, there really isn't much way for me to stop it. I played knight to c3 here, but he can just chop it off and make a new queen. Yeah. He did, spoilers, he did not play that. He went for rook to c8, and I was so relieved that he didn't see that. Because after knight to b1, I still have a fighting chance over here. I do want to point out, let's go back a few more moves, and actually at this point, I did have to make a choice. I had 9 seconds left on my clock. Perhaps if I played this, would there still be a chance? Because after this, okay, knight to d3 obviously doesn't work because this queen is hanging, so I have to play bishop to f3 here, and that, yeah, white is barely holding on to the position here, but it's not looking good. Yeah, I'll do something like here. Maybe let's say this. Okay. If he takes, I'll just take the pawn. And okay, I am just holding. I'm just holding, and it's not good. It's quite unpleasant to play, especially with like a few seconds left on my clock. Yep. Yeah, but anyway, that wasn't played. Queen takes d3 was played, and after this series of moves, this was completely not spotted, but by both sides, thank goodness for that. And I hold, and I hold actually, because after e5, now my plan is that I'm going to bring in this bishop to defend the square as well. It is quite amazing. He chooses to give up the rook here. I do not know why. Probably, I think it's his time lah. I mean, both sides are down. You look at the time now, both sides are really down to our last 5 seconds each. We are literally living on increment now. And after this, now this is, I'm very happy. Oh my goodness, the mosquitoes. Yeah, guys, when you come to LT3, please bring insect repellent. Yeah, bishop to a2 and bishop to e4. I am just holding everything together. And now, black blunders with king to f7. And there are many ways for white to win, except that I do not find any of those ways. I mean, 2 ways I can think of is this that I pointed out during the commentary. So you deflect this, and then after this, I just win. Or I think the other commentators pointed out, just keep a check. And after this, I think it's going to be made very soon. Oh, and I win the rook. Yeah. Instead, with 4 seconds left on my clock, I decide to take the easy way out and just simplify. And I give back the material with queen takes b1. Big mistake, obviously, but with 5 seconds left on my clock, that really was my instinct to give back the material, simplify it, and just play the endgame, which I have more confidence in. And after this, it looks like even though white is up a bishop, black is up 3 pawns, right? Because after this, yeah, black is up 3 pawns. So actually, there isn't really a clear win for white over here. If anything, black might win if I am not careful. And actually, the remainder of the game goes, yeah, both sides just activate our kings. Sakshi tries to get some pawn moves over here. I mean, he tries to activate his pawn majority here. I try to activate my pawn non-majority over on the king side. But I think not really much happened because after this, all he has to do is to just put his pawn on the dark square. I got nothing left to fight for over here. But he also has nothing left to fight for because any of his pawn moves would be negated by my bishop moves as well. And I think I tried to go to find a way to get the opposition and outflank him, but I don't think there was a way to do it. I think by this point, it really was a draw. I do want to point out if I tried to go like here or something, he has this. So that's not the way to outflank the king. So I had to go back. And I think after a while, yeah, we had a draw here lah, by 3-4 repetition. Yeah. Okay, but certainly this was a really wild game. I mean, I played with Sakshi a lot of times. I know that both of us produced many exciting games for sure. But this really was, it was taken to another level. Too many mistakes by and mutual blunders by both sides, especially in the time trouble, right? So yeah, I have covered games 5 to 8 of the Jurong Spring tournament today, and yeah, one main takeaway that I do feel is that I'm actually happy that I am playing a lot more aggressively in this tournament, especially since it's Blitz. I can afford to cause more chaos even though I'm in a losing position. But definitely when I'm calculating my attacks, I do have to. I think I do have to read up more on the typical attacking motives, like the rook this or these things that I'm not seeing. Yeah, before I can before my aggressive playing like pays off lah. Yeah. Yeah. But definitely it is fun to play in an attacking manner when you have nothing to lose. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today. I say that I'll be going through games 5 to 8 and games 9 to 11 I will be going through another day. See depending on when I have the time. This weekend I will just just an informal announcement to my viewers out there. This weekend will be the Asian University Chess Championships 2021. I will not be playing, but I will be giving live commentary and I'll be doing it in the Singapore Varsity Chess Alliance Twitch and Discord channels. It will be running from Friday to Saturday this weekend and next weekend from 2 to 6 p.m. So I do hope to see you there, guys. Right, so thank you very much for watching and see you this weekend.